Hello, everyone. This is a meeting that I called earlier today to talk about the ongoing snow conditions as well as the weather conditions that we have had to deal with now for close to 2 weeks. I'm not going to use any particular order in terms of items I want to talk about. A lot of things that will be talked about by people standing here behind me. Not all of them will speak, but I appreciate all of their attendance here today, and I'd like to just introduce them very briefly before we get started. We have City Council President John Powers, Superintendent of Public Works Don Goodwin, Deputy Fire Chief Mike Viviano, Police Chief Joe Caffarelli, Police Captain James Guido, from our Emergency Management Team, Paul Boudreau, General Foreman from our Public Works Department, Paul Argenzio, again from our Emergency Management Team, Paul Simonini, and School Superintendent Paul Dakin. As we all know, we have received a record-breaking amount of snow over the last 10 days. In fact, close to 53 inches has hit our streets, really an unprecedented amount. And I want to thank all of our crews, and in particular our Public Works Department, who have been out there really around the clock trying to keep our streets cleared. As much as people want to see our streets down to the pavement and every sidewalk in the city cleared, the amount of snow we received has presented an extremely daunting challenge. I want to thank our residents, most of our residents who have been extremely patient during this, been extremely understanding, and recognizing the hard work and the real difficult task that everybody standing here behind me and their respective departments have had in dealing with the situation. I want to assure you that our Public Works crews will be out around the clock as they have been, as we continue to monitor yet another potential storm that we don't have any information as of yet as to the extent of it, but safe to say it could be an extended storm that may last 2, 3, or maybe even 4 days. With the bitter cold that is upon us right now, I want to continue to ask our residents to be mindful of our neighbors, particularly our elderly and disabled neighbors. As many of you may know, at least by the time you see this particular public information announcement, we had a 3-alarm fire up on Reservoir Avenue that presented real challenges, not only with the cold, but the fact that it's on a hill and in a densely populated residential neighborhood. And our firefighters, at the time of this meeting right here, are still working to put the fire out and account for residents of that property, and that is ongoing. I'd like to ask again, as we have in our Code Red announcements, that you please try to take ownership and responsibility of your own sidewalks in front of your homes, and certainly business owners out there, take responsibility for your sidewalks. We're doing all we can to get to every sidewalk in the neighborhood, but it is virtually impossible given the amount of snow and the manpower that we have. I'd also like to ask for the public support, as I have in the past, to shovel out hydrants that may be in front of your house or nearby. Unfortunately, the fire that our fire department is currently dealing with had a situation where not only the fire hydrant wasn't dug out, but a truck was illegally parked in front of it. So these are situations that we are really asking the public's help with. Please do not throw snow out into the street. It does no good for us to go and have our crews plow the streets and only to have behind them shovelfuls and snowblower full of snow thrown back into the street. So not only is it counterproductive to what we're trying to do, but it is also illegal. And our Inspectional Services Department will be out as this winter continues to evolve and more snow is predicted. Our Inspectional Services crews will be out, and they will be citing people if they're found to be throwing snow out into the street. We recognize this is a difficult problem for all of us, but we all have to work together to solve it. I will let some of the people here behind me talk about carbon monoxide in terms of people being wary about carbon monoxide problems. I believe that our Deputy Chief can address that. I'll just close before I bring up our first speaker on a couple of other things. Potholes. You will start to see potholes start to emerge as the snow melts and then more snow comes and then it melts again. Our public works crews are working with our administration and private contractors to make sure that we address these potholes as effectively and efficiently as we possibly can. Again, I have to ask for the public's patience in this. They're trying to deal with the snow removal process, with the snow plowing process, and to, obviously, the extent possible, the potholes that will inevitably occur along our roadways. We are going to be dealing with them, and I just, again, ask for the public's patience as we deal with this. This is not an easy problem to fix. And again, I thank most of the residents who have been really, really understanding and supportive of the city's efforts to get us and to keep our streets safe. I'd like to now bring up our Superintendent of Schools, Paul Dakin, so he can give you an update as to where we've been with respect to school closures, cleanups, safety of the children walking back and forth to school and so on, and what we might be able to look forward to as the winter continues to go forward. So I'd like to call Superintendent Dakin up now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the team of Public Works people who have really done yeoman's work over the last week or so, along with our staff of maintenance and custodial crews at the schools. The schools have been cleared out with the amount of equipment we have on staff in the schools, and staff in the schools allows us to sort of keep ahead of things. And when the city can come in and push the snow around the big lots with the heavier equipment, we more or less have the schools ready. Yet, we've had to cancel school 7 days this year, which are a lot of days. And more importantly, I think the thing that disturbs me most is we had to cancel a day when the schools around us, Chelsea, for example, were in session. And that challenge was presented in talking to the Chelsea superintendent. They felt the area was safe enough for kids to go to school because residents had cleared walkways. And just to see that difference, and that was last Friday, I drove through Chelsea and around their schools and city, and I drove through Revere, and I noticed a glaring difference. That difference was that Chelsea residents have, especially over the past 3 years, been working in a program to make safe their city with residents and businesses championing the cause of removing the snow in front of their homes and buildings. That just wasn't the case last Friday. And as a result, the other schools in the area had school, and we did not. Now, I've lived in Revere all my life, and I'd like to think that our community is as strong and willing to work together as a team as Chelsea or Everett or Winthrop. And a vocal observance of that, visual observance of that, is when people pitch in together during a storm like this and make safe the area around their home so that passage of folks just doing normal shopping on Broadway, which last Friday was a problem, it wasn't a problem in Chelsea, and in areas near schools and any pathways down side streets. I feel our community needs to pull together and get something done in that area. If other communities around us are doing that to make children and adults safe, I don't see why we can't. If we were to call school off for safety reasons, I would likely not be able to have school the rest of the month, because it's not going to be safe unless people accept the challenge of doing something with their walkway, because children are going to be walking in the street. Calling school off until March is impossible to do. So, therefore, we have to count on ourselves and our community spirit together to work as a team, everybody out there with a shovel making safe their area. And I challenge the mayor, and I know they're doing this in the city council, to take whatever means as possible to address that problem with any type of ordinance that is possible. That's how Chelsea has come a long way with this issue, making their community safe when there's snow down. And I think it's high time that we start to have people own up to their responsibility, the fact that they have to pitch in. The kids want to go to school. They're communicating to me directly they want to go to school. We have parents that have to work and have young children that have to take time off, and they take time off and they do not get paid for those days when children have to stay home. So I personally know people that don't have 7 days pay because they had to stay home with their kids. Not that they're not willing to do that. Of course they are. But when the community could help those people keep things together by just doing the fair share in front of their own property and in front of their own business, it behooves us as a community to get together and do that. So I ask residents to try to pull together in that way and build that spirit of Revere, working and pitching in together, that I saw when I was a youngster in the city, and I saw during the blizzard of '78. And frankly, I'm willing to say it outright, I did not see it necessarily across our community over the past week. I think the city is doing all that they can with the manpower they have. We have our school folks going further than ever into neighborhoods to try to clear sidewalks, but we can't do it all. We need the residents to kick in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dakin. And if I could just elaborate on something that Dr. Dakin said, you know, there have been people that have been critical of some of the school closures that we have, in particular the one last Friday when it was canceled for safety reasons. But safety of the kids is priority number one, and Dr. Dakin has made that clear throughout his tenure as superintendent. And certainly it is the goal of our entire emergency management team that you see here standing behind me today. So we do, like other cities, ask for the public's help. In fact, you know, other cities are out in full force and have been out in full force enforcing their snow removal ordinances, and that is something that I will be working with my colleagues on the City Council going forward to create an ordinance that really, you know, gives the city the ability to go out and make sure that people do take ownership for their own property. With that, I'd like to now call up Chief Joe Caffarelli. He and his officers have been out again, like everybody else, over the last couple of weeks, and I know that there have been, you know, cars towed. People were never happy when they're towed, but clearly we have snow emergency zones, and we do enforce those zones. So I'd like to now call on Chief Caffarelli.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First thing I'd like to point out is when we do declare a snow emergency, emergency arteries within the city will be towed. We're going to make every reasonable effort to notify the residents of that through social media, through local cable access, through reverse 911s, also loudspeakers on the office. Our last resort is to tow vehicles. However, on the snow arteries, the emergency arteries, cars will be towed if we find them there. Again, we'll make every effort to move them. The last resort will be to tow them. Along the line of towing cars, on the non-emergency arteries, it's in your best interest for us and for the city and the residents as well. If you can get your car off the street, if you can get it into a driveway, get it into a neighbor's driveway, it makes the cleanup go a lot easier for everybody involved. It makes it easier for emergency apparatus to respond after the storm. It makes the cleanup go significantly easier if the vehicles are out of the way. If you have a driveway, please use it. Again, with respect to the fire department, their apparatus is obviously much larger than ours, but we need to be able to get equipment to the scene of any sort of emergency situation. So please, if you have a driveway, use it. It makes the cleanup go so much easier. And that's really all I have, boss. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. And now I'd like to call up Deputy Chief Mike Viviano from the Revere Fire Department. Clearly, they have their own sets of challenges that they need to deal with during these type of conditions. And I know he'll want to talk a little bit about space heaters, carbon monoxide detectors, and other life safety issues that could impact our residents. So if I could, Deputy Chief Viviano.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief Doherty couldn't make it here today, and he asked me to step in from, he's in command of a rather nasty fire ongoing right now, kind of across the street from City Hall. What the mayor alluded to, carbon monoxide detectors, CO detectors, smoke detectors, batteries, we have to make sure this time of the year that everybody has fresh batteries, and we're all guilty of, some of us are guilty of, a lot of times we might be cooking and we're going to disconnect it. They're so important. They truly, truly save lives. So please make sure you check your batteries on your detectors and make sure that they're good and fresh. Heating systems. Let's talk about direct vent furnaces and everything. With the outstanding amount of snow that we have currently, we have to make sure that your furnaces, their vents outside are cleared. There's been legislation has been passed due to many loss of lives because of heating system vents that were unable to expel the carbon monoxide. So it's imperative that everybody goes out and checks their heating systems and make sure that their vents are clear. And also, often overlooked clothes dryers. Products of combustion, the clothes dryers, we want to use them. They're buried in a snowbank. The carbon monoxide is going to back right up into your house. And it's so important to have detectors in the areas of your heating system and your clothes dryers. Fireplaces, you have to be very careful. Nice fire at night, you just got to be very careful about putting things too close to it. Space heaters, as the mayor alluded to, there's a lot of electric heaters out there which can easily start fires, and we might want to be tempted to hang a wet pair of gloves over a chair next to them or something. You really, really have to be careful with their use. As far as the fire side goes, alluding to what the chief of police said, access is so important to us. Our response time are going to be slowed considerably because our trucks are big, and to get down these narrow streets is not an easy thing for us to do. So please have patience with us. Response times might be a bit delayed, but also if you could have your doorways shoveled, your walkways. There's been many instances in the last few days, in the last few storms, that we've had to actually shovel our way into houses before we could even get in to assist or to even get a stretcher in. Fire hydrants out in front of your house. I know nobody knows what to do with the snow and where to put it. And if you have the strength in you, if you could shovel out your hydrant, it would be just such a help to us. And if you can't, call us. We have the call center number at the firehouse. You just let us know where it is, and one at a time we'll get every hydrant in the city. The crews have been out for days and days, hours and hours shoveling out hydrants, and we just can't get them all. And when we found one of them this morning that we weren't able to get to. This upcoming storm, a few words about that. I don't really know if this is going to be as bad as what we've seen. Naturally, wires down are a big concern of ours. If anybody has problems with wires down, high winds, again, call us. We have a direct line to National Grid. We have a great liaison set up with them, and we're able to respond quickly to any problems. Naturally, if wires down, give them a wide berth. Don't go anywhere near them. And flooding, if you happen to be in any of the low-lying areas and you any flooding problems, again, call us and we'll do what we can to help you out. I think that's about it on the fire side, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy. Again, just for the edification of the public, you should know that our crews, both Public Works crews and fire department, are out digging out these hydrants. But as you can imagine, with the amount of snow that trying to get to the hydrants, to every hydrant in the city, has become a monumental challenge, particularly when they have to respond to ongoing calls for service. So, again, I can't emphasize enough how important it is, like virtually everyone who spoke so far has said, that we ask the public for their assistance at a time like this. Our next individual that I'd like to call up, he's clearly been out for the last 2 weeks solid, him and his men, and they're doing a terrific job, and that's our Superintendent of Public Works, Don Goodwin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank the Revere Fire and Police Department and the efforts of the Revere School Department in assisting us over the last couple of weeks with a very difficult task of trying to maintain the roads and open access to schools. From my point of view, for the next couple of days, we got probably from now till Tuesday, it's going to be a long duration type of storm. We're hearing a minimum of 7 to 8 inches and a high end of 17 to 19. I think we're somewhere in the middle. For your edification, it's going to be a slow-moving storm. It's going to be a slippery storm. You're going to have slippery roads Saturday, Sunday, parts of Monday. We should be able to get everything cleared up right after it stops snowing. A couple of critical issues that we need your help on, being the public, is that please try not to throw your snow into the street. It does you no good. The people up the street are throwing their snow in. We push it down. We get the calls, you plowed in my driveway. Well, if you didn't throw the snow into the street, we wouldn't be plowing in your driveway. Contractors that you're hiring are bringing driveway full of snow out onto the streets. That tends to let the width of the streets get smaller and smaller and smaller as you throw stuff out, which makes it very difficult for the police and fire to respond to emergencies. We had an emergency situation down at Centennial Ave this past storm, and the police came down to assist us to get a car that he just left it hanging out in the street because he didn't want to shovel his parking space out, and the emergency vehicles ended up getting stuck there. So this is a big problem. As the chief had iterated before, please, if you can get your car off the street, it'll make it that much easier for everybody. People who park their cars on top of sidewalks during these storms, you need to stop doing that. There is an ordinance on the book for the finding of people throwing snow into the street. We've been a little laxed in our past history with enforcing those ordinances, but my understanding is that inspectional services will be out during this upcoming storm handing out tickets where warranted. We've had a very difficult 2 weeks, not just with the snow removal. We had an inordinate amount of water breaks to the people that out there were affected by it. We thank you for your patience in putting up with what's happened over the last couple of days. The number in the last 48 hours is north of 10, so when you have a crew of 8 guys that are responsible for doing that type of work, I have to tip my hat to the people at Public Works who've been there. I have a gentleman that hasn't been home since Monday. He's been out there night and day. Mr. Argenzio here, my foreman, he's been home maybe to take a shower and come back to work in 4 or 5 days. They are putting a concerted effort in for your own protection to help keep the streets open and safe. But we need cooperation from the public. Having said that, with the thousands of tons of salt that we've been throwing down, the mayor reiterated earlier, is that potholes are going to start coming in. We are going to need to have your help. Use Facebook, use ClickFix, use any social media that you may have at your disposal to let us know where these problems exist, and we will get to it as soon as possible. Paul, do you have anything to add? So once again, this is going to be a long duration storm. You're going to need to be patient. We don't know what the total amounts will be. It could be significant, but in any regard, please get the vehicles off the street, and remember, please do not throw the snow in the street because it doesn't help you get your driveway any cleaner sooner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Donnie. And just to follow up again on what Donnie said, we get calls. I'm sure probably almost everybody here receives phone calls from residents upset because they haven't been plowed out when they feel as though they should. You know, you really need to know that a city as densely populated as Revere, you know, you got to remember these roads were built prior to everybody having 2 or 3 cars per household. So you've got a lot of cars on very narrow streets, and it presents serious challenges. Chief Caffarelli said, if you have a driveway, get your car into the driveway. We understand you want to be able to plow your driveway out, but, you know, you leaving your car in the street is really at the expense of all your neighbors. So if you have a driveway, get your car into a driveway. If you don't have a driveway and you have a neighbor that has one, ask them if you can park their car there. It is very, very helpful to the overall snow removal process on your street and in your neighborhood. So, you know, again, if you feel the need, to call City Hall or call the Public Works Department or call the school department and, have issues with the way that the snow removal process is going, again, the majority of residents, it's been our experience, have been extremely patient, and I thank you for that. But you should know up front that they are doing all they can. If you drive around the city right now, you'll see these snowbanks that are already 4 and 5 feet high, and the thought of getting another 6 to 10 to 19 inches of snow and how that's going to be able to be distributed amongst these already huge mounds of snow, clearly, I think any reasonable person would understand it's going to present significant challenges. So, patience, please. I would like to now call on City Council President John Powers, representing the City Council here. I know they get a huge amount of phone calls during these storms, and so I'd like him, on behalf of his colleagues, to offer his thoughts and advice to constituents that they have around the city. So, John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple of comments. As you drive around the city, you're going to see on all of these streets that are intersecting high piles of snow. And that can be very dangerous when you're pulling out onto, let's say, the Linway or Beach Street or someplace like that. So one of the things that I do is to blink my lights half a dozen times as I edge out so that oncoming traffic is aware that there is a vehicle in the process of coming out of that street. The other thing I would like to suggest is that if you're able-bodied and you're living next to a senior citizen and you see that their stairs or entrance hasn't been shoveled, knock on their door and perhaps you can help them do that. It will go a long way in aiding that emergency apparatus and vehicles and attendants coming into that for an emergency to get into that residence a lot quicker. And some of the calls that I've received, people complaining about the plow coming down the street and plowing in their driveway or their entrance that they've shoveled. And that's unfortunate, but the city's primary responsibility during a snowstorm is to make sure that emergency vehicles, whether they be fire apparatus, police, or ambulances, can get down those streets safely. So that's something that I myself have to endure, and people are going to have to endure that for the duration of the storm. Just if you can stop throwing the snow out in the street, that will help a lot, as the mayor said and the superintendent. But just that's something that's going to happen. We have to keep these streets open, and that's our primary responsibility. Thank you.
Anybody else want to add anything? No. So, again, I know it's been said 15 times. I'll say it a 16th time. We're asking for the public's cooperation and patience as we continue to dig out from arguably the worst winter in recorded history. So we're going to continue to do all we can. I've pointed out these people here behind me a number of times. They are all working around the clock, literally around the clock, whether it's face-to-face, over the phone, text messaging. we are in constant communication, trying to make sure that our city certainly is safe, and that, whatever the future holds in terms of snowfall or otherwise, that we're prepared to deal with it. So, again, this meeting was called for the edification of the public so that, we could all give our perspectives and information out to the public, because, I don't know if this next round of snow is going to be our last. And my thanks to Revere TV for airing this so that the public can have an idea of what we're dealing with, how we're dealing with it, and what their role in this is. So I want to thank, again, all of the residents that have been so understanding and so patient, and thank all of these gentlemen here behind me that are here for nothing else but the best interest of our city and our residents. Thank you all.